Earlier this week, I started a MONEYBALL save on FM24. And with this, I of course received a whole load of questions from people asking me, what is a MONEYBALL save and how can they go and create their own MONEYBALL save, start a save for themselves in FM24. So in today's video, I'm going to talk you through my process, as well as showing and sharing with you the tools that I've used to try and make a save like this possible, as well as discussing what a MONEYBALL save means to me. So I think we should probably start with explaining what my interpretation of a MONEYBALL save actually is. To put it simply, I think a MONEYBALL save is where you're trying to be smart in the transfer market and you're trying to outsmart those around you by being clever with your recruitment. It is using data rather than using attributes. For example, Keane Lewis Potter here, if we were to describe Keane Lewis Potter in real life football, you wouldn't say he's got 17 dribbling. You would say, oh, he's done this many dribbles per 90. For example, on the screen here, he has done 1.95 dribbles made per 90. That is tangible evidence that we can use to describe how good Keane Lewis Potter is at dribbling. To me, it's also about finding alternatives to the high profile and obvious expensive transfer targets. And it's identifying targets that have a sell-on value so that you're being smart in the transfer market. Because of that, it's also about selling players when they're at the top of their value, or if you think you've received a bid that is above their value, because you're going to back yourself to then take the money and reinvest it in cheaper players who you can see because of the data will still be effective, and you can take that money and use it to reinvest to grow the team into hopefully being a challenger at the very top. I started a save with Brentford, and my aim for them is to try and establish themselves as a Champions League club using these principles that I've sort of discussed there. The place to start for me was downloading a skin that would show me data rather than attributes. Now, the skin that I've gone for is the Musterman. I'll show you the exact name here. It's the Musterman Iconic Dark skin. Now, you can find this by checking the link that is in the description of today's video, or just by Googling Musterman Iconic Dark, and it will pop up for you, and it'll be hosted on one of the many different FM sites. You can find it on FM Scout, for example. Here, look, this link, I'll pop it in the description if you want to go and download it. There's a light version, there's a dark version. If you want to find out how to use this skin, I'm going to show you some things in today's video, but if you want to go and find out loads of stuff, you can go to Musterman FM's YouTube channel, because he has a ton of really, really insightful videos where he discusses how to use the skin in the best way, as well as some saves that he's done himself, MONEYBALL saves with different clubs as well, where he'll show you how it all works and everything like that. I do highly recommend. I'm going to show you how I've been using it, because in essence it's this here. It's this profile screen for a player. We'll go back to Keane Lewis Potter here, my Brentford save. This here on the screen is a breakdown of his data in percentile form for these different criteria here: expected assists all the way down to dribbles made. All of these are per 90, and you can see, you can also compare him to attacking midfielders, which is what he is. This compares here. Look, there's some lovely tool tips that will tell you exactly about this. It says compared to players performing a similar role across the top 20 leagues and expressed as a percentile. So, for example, in expected assists, he's performing pretty well compared to other wingers and attacking midfielders in the top 20 leagues, and he's performing especially well when it comes to goals scored. He's got 7 goals in his 9 appearances so far. Obviously, you'd expect him to be in the, I assume this is 99th percentile is how well Keane Lewis Potter is doing here. And this is where we can make all of our assumptions about players rather than looking at their attributes. These are the attributes here. They are hidden there. It's like a pseudo attributeless skin. They are built into the game. They do exist. However, they're hidden to us because they're expressed instead of as numbers as these little circles here. So we can see the ones that he's better at because they've got a bigger circle. He's not so good at tackling, and you can see he's better at finishing on here. It's much more vague. It's much more realistic because we know that Keane Lewis Potter is probably going to be better at dribbling than he is at tackling, but we can't put a number on it because that's just not realistic. This is one aspect, a really key aspect about how I'm doing a MONEYBALL save. It's downloading a skin that presents everything as data rather than as attributes. Another small thing to mention on this as well is that you want to make sure that you are using enough match detail, because otherwise you won't be pulling through data from the targets that you'll be looking to sign. So for example, on here, I've made sure that my detail level is set to all competitive matches on the leagues that I've got loaded in. I've just loaded in the top 5 leagues in the world. So I've gone England, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, but I am making sure that I'm getting all the match detail, because if you have no match detail on here, you won't get the data from the games being played, and you won't be able to compare those players when it comes to recruitment, which I'm going to look at and show you just now. So then, of course, it comes to recruitment. How do you find players in a Moneyball save that have great data and are performing well? Now, let me show you how I've been doing that. There are a few different ways. One way, and somebody actually said this in a comment, one way is simply have a look for players that their value is max £10 million. And if you want to look for a right back, start scrolling through these players and have a look at if any of them take your fancy, because you will be able to find players that are pretty good and use your scouts. If you're having a look at different players on here, maybe let's get these guys with the value who are up here with the maybe sorting by a world reputation. Get these guys scouted. You're going to rely a lot on your scout, and if you get really good scout reports, those might be players to have a look at, and then you can have a look at their data. There is, though, a more technical way of trying to pull data out of the game and then filtering it to find the exact players that you might be looking for. And I'm going to show you how you're going to do that just now. First of all, what you want to be able to do is to import a filter to use in your game. Now, if I go to import here, you will notice I have two different files here that I can import. There's a most top leagues filter and a top 5 leagues filter. And if I load this in here, you'll notice that it will pull through. No, I don't want to save this one. It will do this. If I actually go out and go back in, it will actually have it. I now have the top 5 leagues filtered, and it also filters to say that they have to have played a certain amount of minutes. These players that are now seen, I could look for a goalkeeper and add to this. I could also, just like I mentioned, add transfer value to this so that I will know that I will get bargain. So these are goalkeepers that play in the top 5 leagues, have played 450 minutes and are less than £10 million. And these might be the players that I want to go and get a scout report on. It doesn't end there, though. The next thing that you are able to do, and I will show you where to find all of these things in a second. The next thing that you want to do is to load in a view on here. Now, you'll see here, I've got the FM24 FMSS player search view, and I brought that in here by going to import view, and these are different views I've got. If I import this view, now you will notice that if I scroll across from here, it has now got a whole load of data at the top for all of these goalkeepers. For example, how far they traveled during a 90 minutes, how many minutes they've played, how many shots they've taken. I mean, who's the top goalie here? Because he's actually had a shot, which is something that I'm now deeply interested in. Jesse Joronen has actually had a shot during his game, but there is all of the data here, which is a lot, and I understand it is very overwhelming, but there is now something really cool that you can do using all the tools that have been set up here to find these views and to be able to download them, and then also to move on to the next step that I'm going to show you. You just want to Google Moneyball FM24. It's really simple. It is the top result on here. It's on the Sports Interactive Community Forums. It is called FM24 Statistics Spreadsheet for those that love Moneyball, and there is a whole load of information on how to use these. A bit like I've just explained to you. There's the view, there's the filter look. Here then is the view, and then this is what we're going to ultimately try to pull out from this place here. Everything that you need to download is on this screen, and then what you want to do next is this. With all of these guys, now if we're going to look for goalkeepers, in fact, let's make it to a winger, just because I think it might be a little bit easier to do. Also, a top tip from me, make sure that you only look for players that are actually interested in signing for you, because otherwise you could find an amazing player and they're not interested. So I always put this on transfer interest doubtful. We've got 28 players that are wingers that are less than £10 million, have played a certain amount of minutes in these leagues, and also are natural at right wing. These players, if you Control A and highlight all of them, what I want you to do now is Control P, and you'll have the chance to print it. We're not going to print it. Instead, we are going to export a web page. Bear with me on this. I'll show you the magic that is about to happen. Once we've exported this, I'm going to save it as AMR. I'm going to call it Test, just because we're testing for today. This will get saved into your Football Manager 2024 folder, which is where you will find all of your graphics and all of your skins and everything like that too. That's now saved in there. Then you want to go back to that web page that I just showed you. Here, there'll be a link to go and download the spreadsheet, this spreadsheet link here. I've already got that downloaded. So once you've saved that and opened it up, it will look like this. Now, what you want to do next is open that file that we just exported from the game, which you will find in your Football Manager 2024 folder. It is, we called it AMR Test, so it's just here. It's a HTML document. I'm going to make sure I open it with Chrome rather than on Internet Explorer, and it will look, again, very overwhelming and a little bit like this. Again, you want to Control A all of this, copy all of this data, and then we're going to go back to our spreadsheet. We're going to go to our top left cell. It's A2 for me, and if you paste all of that in there, you've now got those. Was it 28, 30? How many players was it? It was 28 players. We now have those 28 players in our spreadsheet. Now this spreadsheet is magical. We can go and have a look at a raw data file. So you can just go and see all of this data if you wanted to go and have a look at all of it on here. We could have a look at a percentiles table, which you can see which players are better in different metrics. For example, shots per 90. You can see that our best performer in shots per 90 is this guy who is second. He's actually the top guy on our table that we're looking at right now, which is Maxim Choupo-Moting, or what I particularly like, there's a statistics profile, there's a player profile, there's all sorts on here. Again, it's really well described on that website that I showed you before. My favorite part and what I've been using is using this filter tab where you've got our 28 players, and up here you can decide what metrics you are looking for. Now I'm looking for a winger. I think you want to maybe, depends if you want an inside forward, do you want them to get lots of shots on target per 90? You can set this as a metric and it will show you all of the percentiles for these players. You can see which ones are the highest performers. Now we don't have loads here, but say you had hundreds of players, you could then also set the percentile and you only want to see the top 10 or the 90 percentile only players on this one, and there's only 2 of them. It's Candreva and Choupo-Moting on there. Now I would probably avoid these guys because they don't have any resale value, which is one of the criteria that I'm going to, the principles that I'm going to work my Moneyball save on. But even if you wanted to go back a few steps on here, I was like, actually maybe I don't want to see too many guys there. I could go here and I can make sure I only see up to 25-year-olds. Do you see how you can work with all of the data on here? We would only have 9 players to then go and compare. But even on here, shots per 90, what I like to do is put all of them in and then try and find the best player that is suited for a few different criteria. So we could also do maybe dribbles or maybe assists. Expected assists is always a good one, isn't it? Expected assists per 90 and see which are the best performing on here. Now, out of these 2 players, just based on this alone, you'd be looking at Candreva as being a better option for you if you wanted them to have lots of shots and also lots of expected assists, because he's 79th percentile and 93, whereas Choupo-Moting doesn't create a lot of goals, it would seem, because he's only a 13th percentile out of those players that we looked at just there. Hopefully that sort of explains what we are doing. What I've been doing is finding a really good filtered list like this, exporting it into my spreadsheets, and then using these filters to pull out who the best players that you could go and sign are. And I found some really sort of unknown players. For example, Christopher Wu is a centre-back that I went and signed, who I'd never heard of before, but he came out so well in the data as I was looking at them for a defender, so for centre-backs, that I was like, he's 2 million or so. What a signing he could be, because actually when he does get on the pitch, and he's not expecting to be a starter, but when he's on the pitch, we know that he's going to perform well because he has been performing well for Rennes in Ligue 1. So, and that's sort of it really. That is the approach that I've been using for my Moneyball save. Hopefully this was helpful. There's probably loads of aspects that you could do. I'm going to link everything that I've shown you in the video in the description of today's video. I might even try to put together a little bit of a tutorial document so that you can see how everything's done. But please do ask me if you've had any issues with anything. Let me know in the comments down below. There's probably loads of people who can help you as well. But I know I've had enough people ask me how I've set up and how I'm doing a Moneyball save that I wanted to sort of explain it to you. The other aspects really is just on transfers. I'm trying to make sure that any money that I'm spending, I'm also recouping in sales too. And I've sort of been looking out for whenever someone is has interest in them. For example, Brian Mbeumo right now, if I get a bid, trying to see actually, does that match his value? How has he been performing for me? What do his metrics look like as a striker? Can I get a better one for cheaper? Go back to my scouting, go back to my recruitment focuses, go back to the data that I've been looking at. Is there a better option? Okay, yes, we're going to sell Mbeumo. We're going to bring in a cheaper one who's going to perform better. That's sort of my principles, as well as then trying to make sure that we are getting better as a team. It's a different way of playing Football Manager. I've loved it. I am loving it. I've played the next season already for the next video, and I'm going into the 4th season. I think I'm going to do 2 seasons per video. Hopefully that explains as much as you need to get stuck in and get started on this. Thank you very much for watching today. If this has been useful, it's been helpful, please do subscribe to the channel. We're aiming for 100k. Also leave me a like, and any questions or any just a thank you, Clayts, that'd be fine. Leave that as a comment down below. But most importantly, have a lovely rest of your day. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.